Ever wondered, like, what really goes into making that perfect glass of juice you grab from the supermarket?
Right. It's easy to just like take it for granted.
Totally. So today we're going to dive deep into the surprisingly complex world of a fruit press operator.
It's more than just squeezing fruit, that's for sure.
Way more, apparently. We're using RoleCatcher's career guide on this one, and they go super in-depth. They've got guides for like thousands of jobs, so you know they've done their research.
And the detail they provide is really fascinating. You get a real feel for the day-to-day of this job.
Okay, so let's unpack this. RoleCatcher really stresses that this isn't your grandma's apple cider press. We're talking power presses, filter bags, the whole shebang.
Yeah, it's a physically demanding job, especially for entry-level roles. The guide really emphasizes the need for stamina and attention to detail.
They even talk about the factory environment, like all the sounds, the machinery. They actually recommend earplugs.
And gloves and masks, don't forget those. Things can get kind of messy.
Oh, I bet. But hey, at least you're surrounded by, fresh produce all day.
True, but imagine the pressure during peak season, mountains of fruit, production quotas to meet.
Intense. And this is where those career stages that RoleCatcher lays out get really interesting.
Right. You don't just stay a fruit squeezer forever, thankfully.
Yeah.
You start by assisting, learning the ropes, and mastering the art of, go for it, spreading fruit for optimal juice extraction.
Well, and there's an art to it.
Apparently. And that's just the beginning. As a junior fruit press operator, you get more responsibility, run the machines yourself, troubleshoot problems, make sure the quality's up to snuff.
So problem-solving skills become super key at that level. What about the people who, really excel and keep climbing that career ladder?
That's when things get really interesting.
Okay, you've got to spill the juice. What does a seasoned fruit press operator actually do?
Well, according to RoleCatcher, becoming a senior operator isn't just about knowing the machines. It's about leadership. Imagine, a heat wave hits, the fruit shipment's delayed, and suddenly a power press decides to have a meltdown. Talk about pressure.
Whoa, that's like a whole other level of pressure I never even considered.
Right. And we haven't even talked about how technology is changing things.
Oh, yeah. RoleCatcher mentioned technological advancements and stuff like affecting the whole juice-making scene. What's the deal with that?
Well, it's not just about, fancier presses anymore. They were talking about automated systems and sensors, even the possibility of AI getting involved in the future.
Wait, AI telling us how to, perfectly press a pomegranate? Now, that's what I call high-tech.
It sounds crazy, but it's not as far off as you might think. Imagine a sensor that analyzes the sugar in each piece of fruit and then adjusts the pressing time to get, the ideal blend.
That's wild. But how does a fruit press operator, someone who maybe has, years of experience doing things the old way, adapt to all this new tech?
That's where the whole lifelong learning thing comes in. RoleCatcher really stresses how important it is to keep up with new technologies and techniques in this field.
So you need brains and a brawn now, huh?
Exactly. Think about it. A senior operator who can fix a mechanical problem with a press, but also knows how to spot a faulty sensor or even reprogram a production line for, say, a new fruit blend. That's valuable.
It's like a mechanic, engineer, juice guru, all in one.
You got it. And that just shows how this job is changing. As technology keeps advancing, being a fruit press operator will probably become even more specialized and technical.
So if you're someone who likes working with their hands but also digs technology and figuring things out, this could be a really cool field to get into.
Totally. And we can't forget about the creative side we talked about earlier. Even with all the tech, there's still an art to coming up with those unique, tasty juice blends.
Makes sense. So what are some of the challenges that come with developing a new juice blend?
Well, according to RoleCatcher, you've got to balance a lot of factors. The flavors, the sugar content, acidity, even the color. And then there's the target market, what fruits are in season, the cost of production.
Wow. So it's kind of like being a chef, but instead of a kitchen, you've got a whole factory floor.
And instead of knives and spices, you're using power presses and filter bags.
This whole deep dive has been full of surprises. I had no idea how much went into getting that juice from, the orchard to my fridge.
Right. It just shows how an industry that seems super straightforward on the surface can actually be way more complex than anyone would think. It takes human skill, technology, even a little artistry.
Speaking of artistry, we've talked about the technical stuff, but what about the person doing the job? What kind of personality thrives in this kind of environment?
Good question. Based on what RoleCatcher says, it sounds like someone who's adaptable, good at solving problems, and not afraid of hard work would do really well.
It's definitely not a job for someone who, hates getting their hands dirty.
Definitely not. But for someone who likes a challenge and wants to work in a fast-paced, constantly changing industry, it could be an awesome career.
It's amazing how a job that seems kind of simple at first can actually have so many opportunities for growth and like becoming an expert in something so specific.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about these deep dives. We get to explore the hidden potential in these careers that people don't usually think twice about.
Well said. We've covered a lot today, from the factory floor to like AI-powered juice-making robots.
Oh.
What are some key things our listeners should take away from all this?
I think the biggest one is that the role of a fruit press operator is changing really fast. Technology is a huge factor, requiring new skills and creating new opportunities for people who are willing to adapt and learn.
So it's not your grandpa's juice factory anymore.
Exactly. And for anyone who's up for the challenge, the future of this industry is looking pretty bright.
I see what you did there. But for real, I think we squeezed out every last drop of info from this career guide. What do you think?
For sure. We covered the day-to-day, the career path, how technology's changing things, even the creative side of it all.
Before we wrap up, I've got one final thought-provoking question for everyone listening. Something to think about next time they're enjoying a nice cold glass of, freshly squeezed juice.
I'm all ears. Hit me with it.
Okay, so we've talked about how technology is changing this industry super fast, right? But what hasn't changed is how important human expertise and passion still are, right?
100%. Even with robots and AI, we'll always need skilled people who really understand the process, can fix things when they go wrong, and can guarantee a high-quality product every time.
Which leads me to my question for our listeners. As technology keeps getting more advanced, what role do you see human expertise playing in the future of how we produce our food and drinks?
Ooh, that's a good one. It's definitely something to think about, especially as the line between human skills and technology gets blurrier, and not just in juice production.
It's a topic that goes way beyond just one job. It makes you think about the future of work as a whole and how creative problem solving will always be valuable, even in an automated world. But for now, I think we've given everyone a lot to digest.
We definitely covered a lot of ground, and hopefully this deep dive inspires someone out there to look into the world of fruit press operation, fancy machines and all.
That would be awesome. It really does make you think.
Yeah.
We just grab a bottle of juice without a second thought, but there's so much behind it.
It's true. I think that's what makes these deep dives so cool. You get a peek into a whole world that most people don't even know exists.
Totally. Speaking of which, we've talked about the career path for a fruit press operator, but maybe we can squeeze out a few more details for anyone listening who might be thinking about this kind of job.
Yeah, for sure. RoleCatcher actually breaks down each stage really well, all the way from entry level to, running the show.
So for someone just starting out, what are some of the must-have skills they should be learning? What does RoleCatcher say?
Well, it's a hands-on job, especially at the beginning. So being physically fit and having good attention to detail is super important. You wouldn't believe how much precision goes into something as simple as spreading the fruit out before it gets pressed.
So it's more than just dumping a bunch of oranges in a machine and hoping for the best.
Way more. RoleCatcher actually calls it an art. And then as you move up to junior operator, that's when you start running the machines on your own, fixing small problems, and making sure the quality is good.
So problem-solving skills get more and more important as you go.
Exactly. And that's where things get really wild. Imagine you're a senior operator, you're in charge of the whole production line, the pressure's on to meet deadlines, and then bam, a vital piece of equipment breaks down. And of course, you've got a bunch of junior operators looking to you to fix everything.
Oh man, talk about stressful.
Huh.
What helps someone actually thrive in that kind of job?
Well, RoleCatcher says adaptability is key. Things can change in a heartbeat on a factory floor, so being able to think on your feet and handle curveballs is crucial.
It's not just about knowing the equipment then. It's about knowing how to roll with the punches, right?
Yep. And then, of course, when you get to that senior operator level, you gotta have strong leadership skills, being able to motivate your team, delegate tasks, and stay calm under pressure is huge.
Sounds like the perfect gig for someone who loves a challenge and isn't afraid to, get their hands a little dirty, literally.
Totally. And, even though we've been focusing on the technical side of things, RoleCatcher also talks about how important it is to actually be passionate about the industry.
So someone who really geeks out over making amazing drinks would have a leg up.
For sure. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how fancy the tech gets. We'll always need people who get the art of it all, the flavors, the quality, making something truly delicious.
It's a good reminder that human skills and passion are irreplaceable, even with all the automation in the world.
Couldn't agree more. I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about when it comes to this career path.
We definitely squeezed out every last drop of info on this one. It's been quite a journey, from the factory floor to AI and everything in between.
It really has. And hopefully now our listeners will have a new appreciation for what goes into their favorite drinks, you know?
Totally. So next time you're sipping on something refreshing,
Yeah.
take a minute to think about all the hard work and, yeah, even artistry that went into it.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.